I found my new favorite show, and it is a horror show called From on MGM Plus, and it has a really compelling mystery at its core that makes it feel like the show Lost for back in the day. And I really loved that show when it was on, and ever since it went off the air, there has been a lost shaped hole in my heart. And I think that this show is poised to fill that hole in my heart. It really has that same vibe of you need to see what happens next, you need to make theories about what's going on, you need to discuss what's happening with your friends that are also watching the show, and it's just a water cooler show. If more people were watching it, that's one of the things with having so many streaming services, is that it feels pretty niche. But this is a show that I really recommend to people. If you love The Walking Dead, if you love Lost, this is the heir apparent. Everybody needs to check this show out. I think you're going to love it. It's like Lost, but with a horror focus. There are scary monsters, spooky jump scares, while still maintaining that sense of drama and the inner psychology of the characters being a major focus. So it's definitely something I recommend to my viewers on my channel. It has been recommended in the comment section, so thanks to you guys, I finally got around to it. Thanks to getting COVID, I binged through the whole show. So we're going to talk today about some of my theories about the show and what questions are left at the end of season 2. So thank you guys for recommending the show to me. I will be covering it in season 3. So basically the premise of the show is that there's this town that kind of seems to exist outside of time and space. People from all over the United States disappear into this town. They are driving on a road, and then they end up finding a tree in the road. They turn around and start driving, and they end up going in a loop over and over again, and they get stuck in this town that they cannot leave. Now, it seems like everybody who ends up in this town has a major life event either on the horizon or in the past. So they're at a changing point in their life that results in them ending up in this town. So we'll get into some of my theories about that later, but just to further explain the premise, there are monsters in the forest that come out at night that will eat you alive if they find you, and the only way to keep them at bay is to have a talisman at the door that keeps them away. You can't let them in. They will try everything they can to convince you to let them in. They're kind of like vampires in that way, that they need to be invited inside when you have these talismans hanging in your house. So they will wear the faces of the dead, and they will try to convince you to let them in. And it is a very spooky premise, and it's definitely very compelling. So it's a high stakes situation, lots of death and gore in this show as well. So the town itself seems to have some type of consciousness, and that is one of the major questions of the show, is where does this town come from? What is its purpose? Why are people here? These are all the major questions that we are instantly given at the beginning of the show that I don't think we'll get answers to until the end of the show, and we're left to wonder. But something that is interesting to think about is that all these characters, as I said, are at a turning point. All the characters have something that they need. For example, the main characters in the first episode, the Matthews family, Jim and Tabitha, the husband and wife, they are on the brink of a divorce. This was supposed to be their last vacation before they ended up telling their children about the divorce. So it was a major turning point in their life, and they needed something that would bring them back together. And that is what the town has provided to them. They end up spending time together. Even the son, Ethan, says that we never spent time together like this on the outside world. So the town seems to have provided for them a means of getting back together, giving them what they truly needed. The town seems to know what people need. It seems to pick these people purposefully, and they also all seem to provide a vital service to the town itself. So the town gives them what they need, and they give something to the town. There seems to be a reciprocal relationship going on. Jim Matthews is an engineer, and he uses his skills as an engineer to try to find out more about the town, to try to find a way out maybe. He's building the radio. So the main character, Boyd, is arguably the best example of somebody providing a need to the town. He gives a structure to the people surviving in the town that they did not have before. He had experience in a war zone, basically going in and starting up bases and creating a structure to life in a completely alien and hostile environment. And he provides that same service to the people of the town. He basically makes their life feel more normal. He finds the talismans that let them keep the monsters outside their house so that they can live in a more normal way. And there also seems to be a strange factor of manifesting certain things that they need. He seems to have this idea that there might be animals in the woods that they can then breed and use, and then he goes out into the woods and that's exactly what he finds. So the town seems to provide people what they need. They have their food covered, they have electricity even though the wires end up going nowhere. And there seems to be a consciousness to this place that gives them what they need. You know, they need a medical person, so they end up getting Christie over time. They need a sheriff, they get Boyd. And even individual characters, you know, Boyd has a disconnection with his son, so he ends up getting a new surrogate son in the form of Kenny. And Kenny also loses his father to dementia, so he needs a father figure, and that's what Boyd provides to him. Another example is the character Jade. He's a guy who has a big ego. He definitely needs to be humbled, and that's what the town does for him. Right before getting to the town, he sold his company. He made a lot of money. He basically did what he set out to do in life, but he needed to have a deeper connection to people. He needed to be more empathetic, and that is what happens to him. This is a guy who's very analytical, and he's a logical person. So he's the guy who gets these visions throughout the town, seemingly hallucinations. Lots of characters have strange dreams and hallucinations, but I personally think that none of these are actually hallucinations. I think that these visions are coming from the town itself. The town seems to be a collection of souls. So that's one of my questions is, who are these monsters and what are they? They seem to be wearing human skins. They wear the veneer of a person, and then you see their true form when they attack you. They have big teeth and they have claws, so they are not human, but they seem to have the faces of humans. So maybe people who died in the town, their spirits linger, and these creatures take their form and use them to their advantage. So that is one theory of who these monsters truly are. But there seem to be other spirits as well, the spirits of characters that have died, such as Boyd's wife, Abby. She returns to him in a critical moment, and she seems to be kind of another evil spirit trying to convince him to do the wrong thing. And there's also the character of Father Katari, who is kind of the spiritual guide of the town. He comes to Boyd in visions as well. So he also seems to be a lingering spirit. So there are all these theories about the nature of the town. Is it a simulation? Is it an experiment? Is it purgatory? I don't think that will be the case with any of these things. It seems to be a spiritual place. So there's a concept called genius Loci, and that concept is that there are locations that are like people. I think that this town is kind of a conscious mind that a bunch of lost spirits have found their way into. And I think that these people bring their own manifestations into the world as well. I think that the diner, for example, is from a specific time period in the 60s that somebody from the 60s ended up in the town and brought that there. And this town seems to be stuck in that time period. A lot of the houses look kind of in that 1960s style, but we know it's more than just that one time period because we also have the visions of a Civil War soldier in the town as well. So this town has been around for a long time. So as this town seems to be a consciousness of sorts, there is a give and a take with the town. If you push it too far, they will fight back, basically. So Tabitha digging the hole in her basement to try to find out where the wires go, she took it too far. The house ended up collapsing. And the radio at the same time, they're making a radio to try to contact the outside world. That was them pushing too hard to try to escape. The town pushed back at the same time. So there's definitely a give and a take with the town. And even in season 2, there's this concept of the music box. And the music box was a representation of a new threat. The monsters outside were no longer terrifying people in the same way, so they needed something new so that the people didn't feel safe anymore. They needed something that made them feel like they couldn't even sleep, their dreams were attacking them, and their dreams were manifesting into real life. So these things were a part of the checks and balances that this town seems to have on the people living there. So I think the music box symbolically is aligned with the concept of the box from season 1. Boyd created this box where if you broke the rules, you would be put in the box and put to death by the creatures of the town. So that concept created a sense of law and order, that there were dire consequences for breaking the rules and going outside of what is considered safe by Boyd and the rest of the town. So the box is supposed to generate fear and obedience, and the music box is the town trying to create fear and obedience in the same way, and that's part of this checks and balances that the town has. So jumping ahead to the end of season 2, the biggest question that we have going into season 3 is the cliffhanger ending with Tabitha seemingly leaving the town. She ends up in this tower and she gets pushed out of the tower by the boy in white. And I think the boy in white is an avatar of the genius Loci. There seems to be like a give and take, as I said, with the consciousness of the town. I think that there's a good side and a bad side. The boy in white seems to be the one benevolent figure that's trying to help out the citizens of the town, whereas everything else we see seems to be a threat. So he's the one good thing, and he pushes Tabitha out of a window. He apologizes to her for doing this, so he knows that he is going to cause her pain by separating her from her family. And I think it's interesting that it's in the lighthouse that this happens, because it is aligned with the scene in the first episode of the show where Julie is taken up to the top, the highest building at the Colony House, which is a place where people live together. And at the top floor of this building, the line is said that even when you're in a nightmare, if you get high up enough, it can look like a dream. And to me, that is aligned with the lighthouse concept, that this is a place where you get up high enough that you can escape. Now, of course, it's interesting that it's a lighthouse. It's in the middle of land. It is surrounded by land. There's no water. Typically, a lighthouse is used so that people on the water in a boat don't crash into the rocks at shore. That is the purpose of a lighthouse. It is almost a warning to keep people away. So Tabitha wakes up in the hospital, and it seems to be that she is broken out into the real world. However, there is always the question, is she actually in the real world, or is she just in a deeper layer of the Fromville town? Is it another town that is separated? Is it maybe a complete fabrication, another hallucination? Is it even real to begin with? But I tend to think that she is actually in the real world. That's what they want us to think at the end of the season. And if they pull out the rug from under us and, oh, it was a dream this whole time, it kind of feels like a shallow ending. So I think that would be disappointing. I don't think that they're going to go that route. I do think that her part of the storyline is going to have major ramifications for the town. Of course, she is going to want to come back from this place. Now, I think there's going to be some twists involved. I think if she is actually in the real world, maybe she'll do some investigating and find out that there are websites dedicated to all these people going missing. Maybe she will find out about the history of this town. And there does seem to be a connection with this hospital and the Fromville town. There seems to be a logo that looks very similar to the hallucination that Jade has been having over and over again. He sees this strange symbol, and it's not just Jade. There's that notebook from somebody who used to live in the town long ago that was drawing this symbol over and over again. So this symbol of the hospital seems to be the same symbol, so maybe there is a connection there, or maybe that means it is in fact a deeper layer of this dream. But I think it's possible that it is the real world and the hospital is connected to the town in some way. I think that the kids that Tabitha had been seeing all season, I think that they're related to the hospital in some way, because Jade in the underground tunnel finally sees the symbol that he's been seeing everywhere, and at the same time he's surrounded by all the children who seem to be laying down on stone beds like hospital beds, and these kids are missing hair. There's something wrong with their skin. They seem to be sick, and every time that Tabitha sees them, she is a mother figure to them, and they seem to be reaching out to her for help. So they are maybe former patients of this hospital. Maybe there was a tragic accident and their spirits ended up getting lost in the From town. So I think that, like I said, these hallucinations, I think they are in fact not hallucinations. I think that they are visions. It's interesting that every character basically has their own visions that other characters can't see until certain points in their life. Like obviously Jade didn't see the kids when Tabitha saw them, but he saw them later when it was aligned with his journey. His journey is involving the symbol, whatever that means. He sees the Civil War soldier. He saw somebody crushed under a rock. So he has these strange visions. Maybe these are all related to the hospital in some way. The history of this hospital dates all the way back to the Civil War. Maybe there were war veterans who died there. Who knows what's going to end up happening with that? But I think it's a really interesting end of the season. I think that the hospital is connected with the kids, and we're going to find out more about the origin of the town. The only other thing I didn't address in this video yet is Victor. He is the person who has been in the town the longest, and a lot of people seem to think that he's kind of the author of this town, that he is the genius Loci that I've been talking about. And I tend to think that he is linked with the origin of the town. He's definitely important. He definitely has some hidden knowledge. You know, he knew about the bottle tree, whatever that means, you know, these slips of paper that have dates on them, whatever that means. You know, he has a connection to the past. So I don't know what that is. Is he drawing what he sees, or is he drawing things and then manifesting these things into reality? Maybe he has some type of abilities that he's not aware of. Maybe he can shape the town with his desires and his thoughts in ways that other people can't. So there's definitely a secret to this character. I don't have any of the answers, but it's very interesting to talk about. So I think we're going to find out more about Victor in season 3. So those are some of my rambling thoughts about the From show. I tried to do a little bit of an overview and give some of my theories and questions I have going into season 3. I cannot wait for season 3, and I hope you guys are going to check out my coverage of season 3 when it finally comes out. I'm very much looking forward to it. Let me know your theories in the comment section down below. I look forward to reading them. And with that, it's been your boy Shuggy. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching, everybody. Peace out.